Since its launch in November 2015, Fresh as the Word has been a documentation of sorts for me, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, as I journey through my love of music and pop culture, as well as using this platform to share my growth on topics important to me, which includes topics involving women's rights, people of color, and the LGBT community through the artistic lens of pop culture. As an ever-evolving podcast, I'm going back to my roots, focusing more on the music artists I'm passionate about from the past and present. From the classic hip-hop artists I grew up on, to the new faces of dance. And from the metal bands I've long appreciated, to the indie alternative artists stealing my heart. Fresh as the Word aims to tell the stories of those who need their contributions to music known, while also exposing my audience to the next artist to watch out for. Sometimes before they blow up.
Fresh is the word.
For this episode, we are talking about the new graphic anthology, Deadbeats 2, released by A Wave Blue World, an independent publisher of high-quality graphic novels, anthologies, and art books, focusing on socially conscious storytelling and providing a platform for a multitude of creative voices. Joining me on this discussion is A Wave Blue World co-founders Wendy and Tyler Chin-Tanner, who started the company over 15 years ago. Deadbeats 2, London Calling, is a continuation after a successful campaign for the first volume, which also received high acclaim for both its art direction and storytelling. For those unaware, Deadbeats is a full-color anthology of music-themed horror comics centered around the curiosities for sale at one peculiar record store managed by the enigmatic Shoppe Keeper. Think Tales From the Crypt, but in a record store. For London Calling, we traveled to the new Deadbeats location across the pond in London. The original editors, Joe Corallo and Eric Palicki, are back for more Deadbeats featuring over 20 new comic stories and more than 40 creators. Lisa Stoll returns to provide the cover with our interstitial narrative illustrations by Val Halverson. During our discussion, Wendy and Tyler share how the idea of Deadbeats got started, the process of putting together an anthology, how they picked creators for the stories, along with the founding of A Wave Blue World, running this company for over 15 years, how Wendy's training in sociology informs her work with A Wave Blue World, and their favorite types of music. Currently, Wendy and Tyler are running a Kickstarter campaign for Deadbeats 2, so just go over to Kickstarter.com and search Deadbeats 2, and it should come up pretty easily. Please go ahead and support Deadbeats 2, because it's definitely going to be a great anthology just like the first one. So now, without further ado, let's get into my interview with Wendy and Tyler Chin-Tanner of A Wave Blue World. And now a brief word from our sponsor. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel seeks to bring original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. They also provide an array of services. In the world of wrestling, where there are hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all of their tees in-house. If you would like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, even Zubaz, then drop them a line. Go to 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20, the letter X, the number 20, apparel.com. All right, welcome back to the Fresh is the Word podcast. And like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. And joining me is Wendy and Tyler Chin-Tanner. They are the co-publishers of A Wave Blue World, one of the dopest, publishing companies out there, graphic novels. They have a new anthology coming out. It's called Deadbeats 2, London Calling. I did contribute to the first Deadbeats Kickstarter, and it was mad dope, so I'm excited for the second one. Yo, how y'all doing today?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, we're really excited to be here.
Cool. Yeah, I've been wanting to talk with y'all for a long time because I really dig what y'all doing over at a Wave Blue World. There's a lot of I see a lot of dope art, a lot of inclusion from different types of artists, a lot of different you know subjects,
Mhm.
meaningful subjects, and everything. So like I really respect for have mad respect for what y'all doing.
Great, thank you. Yeah, those are a lot of things that are important to us as well.
So just to dive into Deadbeats, like when the first one came out, like y'all had me like instantly because it was like boom, like the cover's dope. Lisa Sturl did that. She was on the podcast a while back. Big fan of her. And then I was like, yo, this is like Tales from the Crypt, Crypt
Yeah,
Keeper, but in a record store.
yeah.
Yo, you're speaking my language here, man. As a music dude, man. Like so, kind of like talk to me just like the beginnings of Dead Beats for that first one. Where did that idea come from?
Yeah, well, the editors, Joe Corallo and Eric Paliki, had the idea and they brought it to me. And I just thought the idea was great because I love getting music and comics related. Obviously, you can only do so much on a printed page, but to get those themes in there and to do something fun like this was a call back to those old creepy and eerie, horror books where you have like the shopkeeper or things like that. So it was just a lot of fun. Like I love horror when it's like fun in a way, like it's really like, I don't know, just it's not just about grossing you out or blood or things like that, but I don't know, it's got some life to it. And yeah, the shopkeeper is just a really cool character, and that's a great theme to tie the stories together. And it just really seemed to come together, like much like you were saying, how it spoke to you right away. It seemed like there was an audience for it, and yeah, it just really, really took off. And we're excited to do another volume.
Yeah, when you were first coming, putting that together for the first volume, what was some of your ideas that you were able to do on that one, and that you found out were very successful that you're bringing over to the second one.
Well, I think having a main character for an anthology that can be tough. We've done other ones and we've tried to have like a strong cover image with like a person rather than just like this collage of different things because there's all these different stories. If you can have like a focal point, I think that's great. So this shopkeeper, she's a great character. We put her on the covers and she's in these interstitial stories along the way too. So it's not just the different stories, but you have this tour guide who takes you and shows you the different parts, and that's just that's just been I don't know, just a really cool thing to do with an anthology. So we were did that for the second one as well.
What were some of the was there anything any ideas that you had for the first one that you were able to do on the second one?
Ideas, and I mean they're all by stories by different creators, so we brought in different creators who had their own ideas. We tried to go a little more international with this one. That's why it's called London Calling, where like the shopkeeper heads over to London, goes across the pond, so we were able to incorporate that a little bit more. But other than that, I mean it's the same idea, which just there's just tons of things you can do with that. You take these artifacts or these objects or musical instruments and just tell the haunted past of it, this mysterious origins of these items. So yeah.
When you're collecting all these different stories from all these different writers and artists and everything, what are you looking for from them? How did you go out and find all these people?
Well, in terms of creators, we're looking for a collection of like up and comers, established creators, and by up and comers, people that have been doing like indie comics or getting their foot in the door at Marvel and DC, but haven't been at it in a while. But also, we really looked for like brand new voices. Maybe we had just seen online, things like that. And in terms of what kind of stories, I mean, just fitting with the theme, horror but fun, tie in music, and just let them, go to work with that.
I think one of the things that we can do with anthologies that is harder to do on books that are just by single or two creators together is we can practice what I like to call literary citizenship. Like we can afford to give a platform to a lot more people who, like Tyler said, are up and coming or from underrepresented communities. And we can do that all at once in an anthology and, like, you know, give them something good to put on their resume.
Yeah, speak more about that because there's been times when recently I've seen some tweets from people that they were like, "Yo, don't front on that anthologies," because I did an anthology over here, and it led to some mad opportunities for me. I guess there's people out there that don't want to do anthologies for whatever reason, but
Right.
it looks like it's a great jumping off period for some.
Yeah, for sure. You mean people who don't want to participate in anthologies?
Just in general, not even for like this book, just the idea of anthologies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for some folks who have bigger names, it can be like, it can feel like it's not worth doing it, because, like, it's not a huge project and they're probably really slammed with something that, they've been working on for like months at a time. And when you got your head in one project, it's a little bit hard to just switch gears and do something else real fast. But I think it can afford an opportunity to up and comers and people who are just trying to break in and people who haven't really been heard of yet in the graphic novel world or in the comics world or in the mainstream world. So, like, it's an opportunity for us too as publishers to be more experimental.
Yeah. And if you haven't done a lot of comics, then it's better to do a 6 or 8 page story than
Right.
try to jump right into even a 20 page, let alone a graphic novel size
Yeah.
thing. So, and if you want to get well known, I mean, the readership is there because they're reading all the stories. So, you have all these people picking up the book and now they've read a story by you. So,
It's a real good learning opportunity, I think, for somebody who's like straight out of art school or something, right? Because it's like it is a professional opportunity, but the stakes aren't super, super high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're looking for, these up and coming creators, what are some things you're looking for, like when you look at their work and everything, just, not even for this project, for any project that you might be doing.
well, storytelling skills. I mean, especially these days when you're seeing most people's work online, there tends to be a lot of pinups or just character sketches, which are great for posting. Like I get that, but you should definitely have a way where you're showing sequential art. You're doing stories, panels, establishing shots, things like that. Because I'm not going to hire someone for even a 6 or 8 page story if I don't think they can do that. If all they do are like nice pinups,
Yeah.
things like
It's a
that.
super specific discipline to be able to do sequential art storytelling. So it's like, if you just see a pinup or something, then it's like that's like a soundbite as opposed to, like a full song,
Getting back to, the whole Deadbeats anthology, how do you, how do you tell these stories with, vastly different, a lot of different, creators, they're coming from a lot of different backgrounds. The stories are about like a lot have something to do with music, but from like a lot of different times and places and everything. How do you still like kind of keep an authenticity about it all?
Huh, well, we definitely like get pitches first, so the idea. So we make sure that there are ones that aren't too similar, but also you can check, yeah, are they following the theme? But we keep a pretty open mind. I mean, there's like a 3 bullet points to what we want your story to be. And there's a lot of creative license to just take it where you want. It can be different time periods, different parts of the globe. I mean, all that stuff we encourage. So I think that's a good way to get a lot of different material in the same book, all under the same theme.
and to maintain communication with the editors, because like for the editors, there's this whole kind of backstage organizational thing that has to happen because, it's not just about getting individual stories that have really high quality, but they all have to work together in a narrative to make the whole book feel like a cohesive product. So, I think a lot of communication between the editors and the creators has to happen in order to make that work.
Yeah. And we've been working on this for nearly a year now. So people don't realize that we're just announcing the Kickstarter now, and the book will be out in September. But we've been talking about this, working on it, setting up the structure for it. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff
The
that goes into
pipeline,
first.
the pipeline is real long, and also like any kind of creative endeavor like making a book, it's like an assembly line. There's so many people on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't just like boom, bow, bang, like it's out, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real team sport.
Yeah, and each creator is only doing like a few pages themselves, but we've got the 50 different creators that we've got spreadsheets and drop boxes for, and just it's can you can fill up the day just going through the different stories, reading them all, checking over the art, make sure everybody's following the same template, things like that. Because when you try to put it together, if you've got like different sizes or the page counts don't match up, man, it can get to be a mess real fast. So the experience, what is this, our eighth now?
Yeah, this is number 8.
This is number
Yeah.
8. Yeah, so you learn a lot
Yeah.
along the way.
We've been on the hustle and grind for 15 years. We've been doing this a long
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, man, yeah.
for sure.
You spoke of there being a narrative in these books, man. Like for Deadbeats, what was
Yeah.
what was the narrative for both volumes, and did it change like from the first one to the second one?
Other than the location, it was pretty much the same, right? The shopkeeper runs a shop. She welcomes you in, just like you were referring to the crypt keeper earlier. Um, Gives you a little tour of the store, including some of the backroom items, and then she sort of introduces an item and here's a story about it. So you get to learn about it. Um, in this situation, she's off to London auction, very old world connections there to these things that open things up a little bit, but it's still sort of the same idea. Like she's out looking for these haunted artifacts and to tell these stories about. So, little twist, but essentially the same idea.
Yeah, when you're speaking of like horror and supernatural, there's definitely like a creative license that can be there. But is there an authenticity to the musical items in these stories? And was there any like sort of fact checking in that way?
Oh, geez, not a lot. I mean, I can tell you mine's a fictionalized take of the um, my story is called The First Violin, which I worked on with Morgan Bean, which we're done and it's turned out great. Really excited about it. But I didn't even research how the violin was created. I just came up with a spooky twist on it. Like a fairy tale. Like it was almost a what do you
It's
call
like
it?
a Grimm's
Yeah,
fairy
Grimm's
tale.
fairy tale
Yeah.
thing. So I wasn't trying to be accurate. I'm sure it was. Well, clearly it was like a fairy who invented it, which
Yeah.
didn't happen magically. So no, I don't think we're necessarily trying to stay accurate. There might have been some people who did some more research on it, but it's just meant to be spooky and mysterious and have that side to it.
And that's
So,
the thing. I like the fact that it's horror, but it's kind of the more spooky type, because I am not into like gross horror. Like I'm not into like ultra violent gross horror, but I do like that kind of like spooky, creepy kind of sensibility. And then when you mix in this sort of lead character who's a woman of color and she's really cool, and then you mix in the music element, like I'm sold. And this is not really my kind of genre. So I hope there's something for everyone in it, because if I like it, y'all should like it.
Now, see, I'm a big music guy. Got tons of records. Got things on my wall here. Like, what kind of music are you guys into? Like, what's some of the things that you like?
Sorry?
Should I go? Yeah,
Yeah.
like very eclectic.
She's cooler than me. So.
I'm weirder,
Yeah.
like I like what I like.
Uh,
So, I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn.
BK, yeah.
Yeah, where are you from in Brooklyn?
No, I'm not from. I'm from
Oh,
Detroit.
you're just bigging up Brooklyn. All right, I'm down.
I was just shouting out Brooklyn, man, because I'm a hip hop guy, and when you hear Brooklyn, you got to shout it out.
Yeah.
But I'm here in Detroit, so like.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Also, very cool. Also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 44, so I grew up in the sort of like conscious hip hop era. So I was really into a lot of that stuff growing up.
Yeah.
Public Enemy. I like Run DMC too. Actually, our 14-year-old daughter just swiped my Run DMC hoodie yesterday. I have this Run DMC hoodie that's got like my Adidas like down one sleeve, and I love this thing, and she stole it, which I feel kind of torn about, because on the one hand it's like, don't mess up my hoodie, but on the other hand it's like, okay, so I'm the cool mom now, right?
Right.
But I also really like Nina Simone. Like I discovered Nina Simone when I was in high school, and like really fell in love with her voice and that whole genre. I still listen to Nina Simone. Actually, when I was in labor with Maddie, the 14-year-old, I listened to Novus 1972, which is one of her albums, like on repeat, like
Nice.
all through labor, and that like kept me going. So yeah, I mean, I also love like the Pixies, the Breeders, like all of that.
Yeah, that's a lot of yeah, cause yeah, I'm 40 now, and like that was a lot of the stuff that I listened to as a kid. I'm very familiar with, like yeah, like I'm a hip hop head, and I started from young listening to that. So, and then not, like all like the Pixies and stuff like that, and that was stuff that I heard when I was like a teenager. So, like
Yeah,
yeah, that's my stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
we love the Roots also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I mostly was like a rock guy, but I feel like I always was getting like that one or two hip hop, your rap albums along the way. Just if I heard about it, it was good. I mean, started with Run DMC, Public Enemy, Lauryn Hill,
oh yeah,
Roots.
Lauren Hill.
Got Kid Cudi recently. Got into him. Um,
Those are all people that don't like hip hop still
exactly. Well,
kind
that's
of
Yeah,
like hip hop.
me.
There's always those like the Wu
Yeah,
Tang Clan. Like people could hate rap back in the day, like
yeah,
hate rap, but they loved Wu Tang Clan.
right, right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm also huge into Prince. Like, I'm a huge
Oh
Prince
yeah,
fan, and Prince and Bowie and like all that.
yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I was like AC/DC and Van
Oh
Halen, into
yeah,
Guns N' Roses and things like that. Then I got more into like the grunge alternative, Pearl
Yeah.
Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, which I still listen to over and over again. Like it doesn't matter, 20, 30 years later, I'm still putting those albums on.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I was like really into like 80s metal and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But then also Jimi Hendrix was my first
Oh
oh
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
first
Mhm.
love. Like Jimi
and
Hendrix and the
Janis.
Who when I was like
Yeah.
6 or 7
Yes,
years
I
old
love.
were like my favorites. And my favorite band of all time is Def Leppard. So
Oh,
Oh
okay, cool.
yeah,
ever since I was like 7 years old, like
I should have worn my shirt.
I loved, I mean, yeah, 1987 was Hysteria. That was the same year that Appetite for Destruction. Those two albums were like my favorite. Yeah. So,
monsters, man, monsters of albums.
yeah, yeah. So, wow.
Yeah, that was like middle school for you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep. No, I remember that really well. That's when I got super into music.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's like the
87.
awakening, right? Like when
Yeah.
you're 12, 13, you start really getting into
Yeah,
music,
like
buy your own music.
that's a good like I had like an awakening when I was like 6 or 7 that
Hmm.
happened, but then like a couple years I was just kind of like when I was like 9 or 10 or 11 years old, I was just like whatever. But then it was like when I was 12 years old, that's when I started like getting into like hip hop and rap music like really hard, and then
Yeah.
some like rock stuff like the alternative stuff at the time, like 9 Inch Nails and
Oh
Soundgarden
yeah,
and
I
stuff
was
like
into that
that.
too.
But
Mm.
yeah, 12 years old is like a good age for that, where that's always like a sliding door time where you're like the stuff that you listen to then you kind of it always sticks with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm. For
yeah.
sure.
I
Like
think with our kids when they were really little, they were into more like gentle stuff, like Beatles, like, Bob Dylan. And then like as they're getting older, they're getting into like harder stuff. Like actually our 6-year-old is already kind of into metal. It's weird. Like,
Oh man, she loves that Marilyn Manson song, Beautiful People. I don't know why.
that's creepy as
It's
hell
creepy as hell, but she just loves it. She'll go around.
wow.
because she's got like, a little baby voice and she's got like a little lisp. So she's,
Yeah. Don't repeat that line. You can't smell your own shit when you're on your knees. I'm
yeah.
just, oops. Yeah,
Don't say that about around grandma.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
When
So,
when it comes to deadbeats, is there any sort of sense of nostalgia that you kind of put in there, like the stuff we were just talking about, like that sort of feeling that you wanted to put into any of these stories?
well, I can definitely speak for my own, where I definitely, put in that Grimm's,
Fairy
what's
tale.
Grimm's fairy tale sort of feel, which I love to do. I mean, well, as soon as we said London Calling, I just thought old world UK type thing, and I wanted to do
Yeah.
something of that sense. So something with fairies and kings and queens and knights and things. So that got my juices flowing.
London is inspiring to us also. So we
Yeah,
lived there for a few years, and I lived there for 15 years, but Tyler and I, as a couple, lived there for like what, 5 years,
yeah.
and our older daughter was born there, so it has meaning to us.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not something I would know just based off of the other creators. Even having looked at their stories, I'm not quite sure how much they pulled that in. I'm sure, like many creators, they're pulling from their experiences and what they know and things like that, especially with the music and that they sure that they enjoy. So yeah, um, yeah. But other than that, I don't know how to speak, for anything specific. Yeah.
When it comes to the visuals, the artwork for the cover, for all the
Mhm.
stories within, what were you guys looking for, as this, anthology? What did you really want these artists to kind of portray?
I mean, I think a variety. The cover, we definitely wanted a consistent feel because that first one was so arresting. We really nailed that. Lisa Sterl, did that one. I think you mentioned, and so we had her back for the Kickstarter cover for this one. That same sort of, dark but energetic feel towards it. Um, and then the art inside, we actually went for a variety. We got some, really energetic, cartoony stuff. We got some, I don't know, almost like collagey, like fine art feel to it. Watercolor, traditional. There's a lot of variety in it. So
Yeah, for anthology, I think you got to hit a real kind of like broad space in terms of people's sensibilities because everybody likes different things, and so
mhm.
you want to provide that for your readers.
Yeah, you often hear afterwards. Some people are like, "Well, I like this story, but this one didn't appeal to me," or vice versa, and they're not the same ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I can get real surprised by what people tell me they like best.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're sort of like sequencing the stories, how do you go about that, and like how do you make sure, like, you it just like visually, even like you see that there's a difference from one to the other and nothing kind of runs into each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of want to start off with whatever one you think really encapsulates the tone the best. Especially coming from the cover image, you don't want to like anything too different right away. Um, and then you just sort of look for balances in a narrative. Like, all right, if we got them sort of in this mood, let's try to change it up a little bit, into this, and just try to find a flow. I mean, you don't know what you're getting until it all comes in. But then I think you just sort of like spread it out, even if you're talking visually, make like a board of it and just see what narratives, both visually and story wise, what's there.
Yeah, you got a lot of tools to work with because in comics you have both the visual narrative and the narrative of the words. So you can use either one of those or both to find a connective thread to move from one story to another in terms of sequencing.
And sometimes you can just see like this small like visual thing. Like there's
Yeah.
a car in this one, like they leave in a car in that story, but somebody shows up in a car in the first one or something. I mean, you don't want to get too gimmicky. Um, an item that somebody has, I don't know, some visual tie that you may like, oh, let's go from that to that.
But then other times you also want to have like a palette cleanser. So
Yeah.
sometimes you can like, just almost do like a jump cut in a
Yeah.
way, right? Like visually and with the story, you just like, create a break and then start again with another arc. And you can do that by contrasting stories, like two that have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, or when you get one of those stories that like looks like nothing you've seen somewhere, and you don't want to start with that one, but you're like, oh, we're hitting this one theme for a little while. Let's just go full palette cleanser with this,
Yeah.
Crazy collage type version one or whatever. Yeah.
So, you two have been doing A Wave Blue World, for like over 15 years now.
Hmm.
What really, caught my eye is, the visuals on the covers, uh, the names of the stories or the books, whatever. And the fact that, a lot of the things that guys were dealing with in these stories with all these collaborators were, about, like culture and race and identity and stuff like that. What, how important was it for you guys to like really make sure that there is a message behind whatever you're doing, whether it's in a serious way or in a fun way, whatever? How did you balance all that?
Well, I think that's really it. I mean, we want a message behind what we're doing. We're not, this isn't just fan fiction or genre love or anything like that. We'll have a variety of concepts and genres, but we want stories that really have something to say. It's about the world, about humanity, how we relate to each other, about making the world a better place. I mean, that's what story is at the heart of it. And we just really want to make sure whatever we're doing has some sort of message and is saying something.
I think what the way to make the best art is to really, find what's most important to you and the kinds of stories that you are best able to tell. And those are the ones that you can deliver with the most passion and with the most intensity and authenticity and heart. So the issues that we have in our books are issues that are those things for us that are the most important to us.
And I was reading that Wendy, you're a trained sociologist. Like, how does that help sort of, view all these stories that you're, being submitted or he's doing or whatever? Like, how do you sort of, how do you use that to sort of, bring everything together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more that it informs a lot of my practice as both a creator and as a publisher. Like, it keeps me rooted in this idea of like, how can I improve my social activism? How can I improve my literary citizenship in this position of being a gatekeeper, basically? And I'm constantly learning and constantly examining my own biases and my own blind spots and my own privilege. And, we try to bring that to the table at work and, constantly move forward in that way. Whether that be through like our hiring practices, whether that be through like the next story ideas or whatever, just kind of across the board. So it's definitely like always there, always present, because it matters to us. And we live it like in our life. I'm a woman of color. Tyler is, the patriarch and husband of a family of color. We have two girls. So, these issues are at the fore of our own personal life.
Along with it just being personal, like the past 5 years have been just like, a clusterfuck of every sort of, cultural and identity and race movement, more so like, it was really intense, what did you learn during that time? And, what did you put it into your work, through a Wave Blue World, and like, what did you learn from that experience too?
I mean, I think that I learned that like allyship and solidarity is more important than ever, and to be really loud about it, and to not be worried about not selling or not be worried about like, oh, some of our audience is going to be turned off by it. You know what? Those folks were not our audience anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough time for us, I mean, for everybody, but like, dealing with that, just getting by and surviving yourself, like, to, what we're going through mentally and emotionally, dealing with all these issues, and then trying to keep working can be tough. So we've really tried to lean into like what we had to say, what we could do to help during this time, and be okay with not doing some things as well. I mean, if we have to cut back on some things, but to focus on what's important, and maybe publishing less. Like when we had the whole pandemic thing, I was like, I have no problem dialing this back a little. Didn't mean we went into hiding or we stopped caring about the important issues, but all right, we're publishing a little bit less. We're going to take some time not shipping things out. But let's get a little more grounded, a little bit more centered on what's important to us and what we want this company to be.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I feel like hopefully we're coming out of it. I mean, we're certainly coming out of the political nightmare a little bit, hopefully the pandemic as well. I just feel like we're a little bit more grounded in who we are and just ready to continue, being who we've been for the last 15 years, but just, more vocal about it, reaching a bigger audience and, I mean, hopefully being a source of comfort for some people who these issues are important to them, and knowing that there's a publisher out there trying to do their best with all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think self-care and
Hmm.
prioritization is also something that like
Yeah.
probably all of us have learned this year,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like when things get really intense, the things that don't matter fall away,
Right.
and you kind of see what the important things are, the priorities are.
When you think of, when you look back to, 15 years ago, starting this company, what really sticks out in your mind, and how do you feel like, here in 2021 you've improved on all that?
Oh man, I think back to like how little I knew. I mean, it's been 15 years of learning, and I mean, I didn't, I don't think I was like foolish when I went about it. I really, I was going to art school. I had a lot of great teachers and Joe Huber to lean on and give me a lot of information, but I was still just so new at it all. And when they say like, I never like the expression that much, fake it till you make it, because I mean, I don't think you should fake anything. But the idea is sometimes you just have to just jump in and learn to swim while you're in there. As long as you're really learning and improving.
Right.
But just think back to that 15 years ago, man, what I know now, and where we are versus then. I mean, there was no other way to do it, but that, I mean, that's what I think about when I think of 15 years ago.
You
How do
didn't
you?
you didn't learn how to be a business person in art school. That's the thing. I
Mhm.
mean, like what he was trained to do in art school was to draw and to write. He was
Yeah.
not trained how to run his own business. And I think, well, first of all, we founded the company the same year we got married, the same summer we got married. So like our family life and the life of this business have been enmeshed from the jump.
Right.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I was totally like, yeah, let's go for it, because I think for me, just like growing up the way I did, my parents have a little art supply store in Brooklyn. And, so I grew up in a mom and pop shop. I grew up seeing my parents working together. My dad also worked at City College, like he worked in the art department
Yeah.
of like the local city college. But, he and my mom ran this store together, as well as more her store, but they still ran it together. So, that was like that was my modeling. That was like what was normal for me. So it seemed totally normal for me that we should also have a family business, and it didn't scare me. It didn't seem like
Right.
crazy or anything. It seemed totally normal.
Yeah. But it was weird because I didn't even realize that for a little while in. It's like, wait, I've never actually taken any classes on running a business
Yeah.
or bookkeeping. I mean, I learned all that
You
stuff on
learned
the
that.
fly. Like I
Right.
knew comic books inside and out, or at least, my, reading them my whole life. And then I went to the, art school and learned quite a bit there. Still had plenty to learn, but yeah, when I look back at it, I'd be like, oh, I just learned how to run a business like on the fly, like watching like instructional videos and reading some books and stuff.
But we grew it really slowly, and I think
Yeah,
that was really good,
Yeah.
because like the stakes weren't super high. Like we didn't go bust because we were splashing out too much. It was
right. Yeah, and especially with the growth of digital and then Kickstarter and things like that, that just made it so much easier to, I don't find a grander audience without needing as much seed money every time you make
exactly.
something. Because, I started off just making one book at a time, and it would take 3 years to do, and then get the book out and start the other one. And then with that, we started getting into the anthologies, and things just started kind of growing. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is really a company now. But, it's still us. We did bring on some staff, we do it all remotely, but for here, I mean, it's just home studio office. So
We only very recently got book distribution too. So like we only went national to
yeah,
the national bookstores, what, like not even 2 years ago, like
Oh,
18
right,
months ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
then the pandemic hit, so that
right,
was awesome.
I
Yeah.
know,
Like,
always
damn it.
eventful for sure. But yeah,
When you look back, how are you able to build your audience to the factor where they're gonna spend their harder money on your products and stick around for the next thing that comes out?
well, I tell you, I've always focused on content. Like, I want to make something that people will want to read before I'm going to worry about reaching the audience. I mean, you have to do marketing, you have to get out there, you know, but much rather have a product that I think people will love, but I'm not sure I can get it to as many people as I should, than make something that I don't think people will like that well, or just sort of, and then spend a lot of time getting it in front of people's faces, or, things like that. So content is number one, my favorite, or the most important marketing thing for me has always been a cover. Design and cover and a logo. They say you can't judge a book by a cover, and that's true. The content does come first, but man, you got a great cover. Always focused on that. Great logo. Work with great designers. Work with great cover artists who know like how to make a cover. That's marketing number one for me. Then you worry about social media, ads, things like that, because it gets so much easier from there.
Yeah, and even with the social media part, that's what really drew my attention to A Wave Blue World, was that you had these cool visuals that were put out there on Facebook and whatever, and it really drew me into it. And once I looked at the post and everything, and I saw that there was like some real meaning behind it all. There was this is different than just your regular comic book company or whatever.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that, because I think getting that kind of feedback is helpful, because sometimes we try stuff and we don't know what the impact is, and it's like, oh, should we be spending our time and energy doing that? But it's good to hear that it does draw in people.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much noise on social media. It can be hard to judge. I mean, we just try to be consistent. Like I said, we make projects we love, we make them as good as we can be, and then just try to get them out there and hope people. But you don't really have a measurement of how well it's absorbing. Everything you just described, you can't measure that with a like or a heart or whatever. So you just hope it's having some lasting impact on people.
Right. It was always like, yo, that's a cool logo. Those are cool covers and everything. And then, but I also think that it coupled well with seeing both of your your presence online individually. I got to really through seeing you guys on Facebook and everything, was able to really learn what you guys were about, and that kind of drew me into the company more so.
Yeah, I mean, that's another part of our brand. I mean, we are who we are. We're not trying to be like, we're not trying to like toe the line of anything so that nobody gets, offended or bothered or disagrees with our views. I mean, we have our views. We're out there. We don't get too argumentative, or, if we can help it, or try to like, fight battles, but we'll support the things we support, the movements, causes, and people can make their own opinions.
Yeah.
So for Deadbeats 2, where you're going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign for that. Talk about the campaign and what we can expect for the the tiers, the price, whatever the parts of it, what you're offering. Talk about that more.
Yeah, the more we've been doing it, I think the more we've pared it down and simplified it a bit. Right? It's about the book. It's about the anthology. So we offer the book digitally. We offer it as a physical reward, which we'll send out, the book itself. We usually always do a sticker of the logo, because those logos are great. It's a really cool, if you remember. And then we've got the second one here.
Yeah.
We kind of throw that in. We do a process PDF for people to see behind the scenes artwork. We're offering a pack of both of them. If somebody didn't get the first one or wants another copy of it. We do a book plate, which is a good way to get signatures, especially now with more of the virtual world and not as much conventions and things like that. Like, it's a good way to get a bunch of signatures all with your book. And I mean, that's really it. Like I said, like we don't fuss around too much with too many merchandising or for extra things. We're not going to launch with a t-shirt. I could add one on later. Maybe that would be a good halfway through. Like,
the t-shirts are good.
Yeah, well, we did the first one, and the logo isn't that different, so I wasn't sure. Like, it just says London Calling underneath it, so I wasn't sure if it was worth doing a second one or not. But I'm sure we'll have new audience members, so I don't know. That's something we'll see along the way.
Yeah, we'll think about that. And Tyler does all the shipping
by
hand, and he's a meticulous shipper. I keep meaning to do a video of him doing his shipping, because he's got a method, and he's got his little shipping station like on top of the laundry.
I hate, because I've been with the Kickstarters. I hate when things come messed up or just in a little bubble envelope or whatever.
Man, I feel you, man. I feel you, because all my adult life, I've been like randomly just selling stuff, like starting on eBay and then being a record trader, and then these days I'm like selling a lot of records and CDs on Discogs. So I've been shipping my whole adult life, and I actually get joy out of the shipping process. I don't know why.
You got to get the material, you get the, your supplies, and you have your method. It gets easier to do it once you have your routine. It's like, okay, pack it in this, put this on top of this and that, ship it out, and people get their book not all mangled, which I've gotten Kickstarters where I'm like, so you pay this money.
Oh yeah, I've had some horrible I've had some horrible shipping, and like I said, I buy records, and sometimes it'd be the biggest companies that have the worst shipping.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
The person doing it doesn't care because it's, they don't have their heart in the thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? Oh my God.
It's really disappointing. So, I want people, if they order from us, whether it's Kickstarter or through our website, to feel like they're getting a gift, like something special shows up, to thank them for backing our campaign or, buying directly from us. Yeah.
So, I feel you, man.
He gets into the zone. I think it's like a meditation for him a
little bit. I feel you, man. I totally understand, It got to the point where I was hoarding boxes in my my apartment over in the closet. I got this walk-in closet, to the point where I looked and I'm like, I gotta get rid of some of these boxes. I gotta get rid of a lot of these boxes. Yeah. And I finally did, and everything's organized in there, but I still have probably 6 feet tall of record mailers that I save, but
yeah, well, you want to buy in bulk, and you want to have them on hand when you're ready to ship. So I mean, it's just sort of, you got to make room for it, I guess.
The nice thing too is that we make sure to use as much recycled shipping material as possible. That's we lived in Portland for 5 or 6 years, so we got super into composting and recycling and all that. So that's important to us too, just being environmentally conscious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, most anything that I use, it's been reused.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best one.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yep.
So, when it comes to, the Deadbeats anthology, 1 and 2, what do you hope your audience gets out of, reading these books?
Oh man, I just hope they enjoy reading it. I don't know that there's a lot that we really are focused on people getting out of. I mean, each story has their own message. But
pleasure is at the center of it, right? We hope that they get a sense of pleasure and a sense of escapism from it, right? That's why we read, right? We read to feel, and we read to feel connected to other people. We read so that we can feel less alone. So
just enjoyment. We've got so much diversity of experience and life, in the creators and in their stories. I think that's brought in there naturally, that we didn't really want to hit anybody over the head with any message too much, because just putting this book out, I think, is a message in of itself.
Word. Yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you, Wendy. Yeah. Great talking with you, Tyler. Where can people go online to get more information about, Deadbeats, or, anything that A Wave Blue World is doing?
Well, our website is real simple. It's 4 letters, awbw.com, with the abbreviation for A Wave Blue World. If you go on a Kickstarter and just type in Deadbeats or Deadbeats 2, London Calling, you'll find it. I think, it's pretty easy to search on there.
Yeah.
We put our kids to work in this Kickstarter
video. Yeah, you guys got to watch the video. Our 14-year-old daughter makes her, she doesn't make her debut, but she does the takeover of the video. So.
Yeah, and our 6-year-old makes a cameo.
Yeah, so.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh is the Word podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. Empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh is the Word. Fresh is the Word theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamstevo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Fresh to the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh to the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/freshtotheword. Follow Fresh to the Word on social media on Twitter at Fresh to the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh to the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh to the Word. For more information about Fresh to the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshtothepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.